Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts to get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
It has been far too long since all of you have basically heard the one and only voice that is back in the sports industry, and that is yours truly, Jake the Snake Silva, here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us a part of your evening tonight. We are live on all platforms: iHeartRadio, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and TikTok is where you could like, follow, and subscribe, and hit the bell button to keep you up to date on future and past shows. It's been far too long since the show has basically been taking a hiatus, but I am back, and I am back in full swing. And we've got a bunch to really talk about here tonight, but I'm doing it in grand fashion. And of course, as you know, the NFL playoffs have been absolutely spectacular and surprising. Plus also, too, the NFL championships for both the AFC and the NFC. I'll be getting into breaking those down here in a little bit. But there's a lot to really kind of cover up about. But the show is sponsored by SeatGeek. Get yourselves your seat at the most affordable price when you use promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off of your purchase. And now, the Snake Sports Talk Show is also sponsored by BetUS. BetUS is a betting platform, basically fun to play. And if you sign up right now, no matter your deposit, you'll be getting over 125% bonus on your deposits. And of course, 30 risk-free bets when you join. That'll be on betus.com. All right, so let's get to the matter. So breaking news that basically broke out earlier here tonight is the Las Vegas Raiders have agreed, and they have hired former Chargers general manager Tom Telesco to be a part of the franchise. I think this is a great hire. And here's the reasons behind why I think Tom Telesco really does work for the Raiders. First of all, in the Chargers debacle and what was going on in the organization, it was not all Tom's fault. The problem of it is that most of this all carried out from the organization as a whole. Now, I know what a lot of you may be saying and why we think this probably could be a weird, interesting fit. But this is where I'm honestly going to defend Tom Telesco from this point. So as far as what the Chargers were basically going through, first of all, they have had a history of hiring the worst coordinating coaches that were out there in the last few years. date all the way back to post Marty Schottenheimer and post Norv Turner. The Chargers left San Diego to go to Los Angeles in a market where they were not welcomed in Los Angeles at all. One of my biggest things that I thought was insanity is that they had so much great talent, but they didn't have the right coach. That was one of the problems, as I've said multiple times, is basically that the Chargers needed to hire a grown-up at head coach. But part of this whole deal into why Tom Telesco ended up getting let go is because he held on to Brandon Staley for so long. And the mixture of coaches, and we know that Dean Spanos is known to be a cheap owner. He's also known to be somebody that can be very, very cap stretch thin. So he's not going to be paying out a lot of these big-time coaches. Neither is he willing to basically go and get the best players available so that this team could eventually win a Super Bowl. Tom Telesco, for the last 10 years with the Chargers, he is responsible for Keenan Allen. He's responsible for Joey Bosa, Justin Herbert, Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson, and Thule. And he's had a mixture of hits. Even Melvin Ingram, one of their other pass rushers. Tom Telesco's got a great track record of being a really good hireable GM because he knows player personnel. That's one of his secret sauces as to why he's one of the most respected GMs in the market. So why is this significant for the Raiders, first of all? Well, look at the Raiders in dating back to the last 20 years. The Raiders have not had the most legitimate general manager. They've gone through head coaches like diapers, let alone their star quarterbacks. And so they needed a change in personnel. They finally did the right thing by hiring a head coach who clearly fits the brand, Antonio Pierce. He's a player's coach. Players love him and respect him, and they would love to play for him. That's why Raider players and also Raider fans out there, Raider Nation, is absolutely ecstatic at the fact that he's staying put. Give him a chance. Give him a shot. By the way, the defense, since Pierce had been the head coach, opposing offenses were only scoring minimum of 16 points a game. So they're limiting them to at least a score, 2 scores, and a field goal. That's literally what they do. And the defense plays hard. They play with passion. So Antonio Pierce was the right move. Players love him, and he fits the brand. But Tom Telesco, adding him into the middle of the mix, he's great at player personnel. And in the last 10 years, since he's been the Chargers head coach, was responsible for all those big players. What do you think that this will look like for the Raiders when you have a great personnel in the building who basically aces the draft? I know a lot of you get the recency bias out of your head with the Quentin Johnston move, all this other stuff, and then the Brandon Staley retaining his job. Get all that recency bias out of here. We need to focus on what Tom Telesco is really good at. He's great at spotting talent when he sees it from a mile away. He's great at player personnel when it comes to, you looked at draftees like Justin Herbert, by the way, which the Raiders need a new franchise quarterback. And there are several of them in this draft, from Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Michael Penix, and Bo Nix. There are so many different franchise quarterbacks out there that could be the face of this franchise for the next 10 years. From what it's sounding like, and I think that this is a great fit, is I think Jaden Daniels would work in this organization. I've even said Bo Nix at sometimes, but honestly, either one of those quarterbacks, even Michael Penix, could work in this because you have a trustworthy GM, you have a players type head coach, and this is exactly the roster that's going to need a little bit of, not so much of a rebuild, but it needs juice. It needs a revamp. They've got a really good defense. And honestly, you could give Max Crosby another edge rusher to help him out. So, and I talked about this. Talked about this with a really good friend of mine, covers Raiders content, was absolutely nervous at the whole hiring. I said, take a deep breath. This is what I'll tell every one of you guys in Raider Nation, take a deep breath. Don't get stuck in the recency bias. Tom Telesco is smart. He knows what he's doing. His track record is great. This is what you pay for. So if you really want to be the toughest team in the AFC, because think about it, the Chargers right now are very close to possibly hiring Jim Harbaugh. Andy Reid, he has been unstoppable with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and the whole entire Chiefs staff. And then who knows what's in the cards for Denver and Sean Payton. There's a lot to really look at from this. But I wouldn't panic. I would basically keep my cool, and I would honestly be along for the ride. I think this is a great hire. You can't go wrong with this. The last 10 years, he's been with the Chargers. He's been acing draft after draft. Get the Quentin Johnston pick out of your head. He's a rookie. We expected so much from him. He did not end up producing, but I am not condemning him because of the fact he's a rookie. Let's see what the second year goes for him. But as far as for Thule, the thing about Telesco is he knows how to draft from 1, 2, 3, and 4 rounds. Look at what all those picks that the Raiders could have. They could have a franchise quarterback this next year. They could go and get themselves another wide receiver if depending on what's happening with depending on what's basically happening with Hunter Renfrow. That's it. So, and you could also get more depth on defense. I think honestly, because the way that the free agency market is shaping, it's great. So this is not something to freak out about. This is something to honestly, you get competitive in this market. So I think Telesco, he works. Absolutely works. All right. First of all, let me just say something about this with obviously the NFL playoffs currently going on, and we're going into the championship weekend. So we got the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. I watched that Niner game against Green Bay. And to be honest, I would be nervous if I'm San Francisco. I would be totally nervous. When I watched that, you clearly saw how much pressure Brock Purdy was getting. I mean, listen, San Francisco has all-stars everywhere on this roster. There is no doubt about that. But the biggest part is they've never had a star quarterback. The last few quarterbacks that they have had in this organization between Jimmy Garoppolo and C.J. Beathard and Trey Lance and now Brock Purdy, you just saw it on display against the Packers, and I took the Packers points because I felt like there was a good chance that a young roster like Green Bay was going to absolutely pressurize Brock Purdy. But part of that reason, Deebo Samuel got hurt. And from what I'm being told, there's no fracture. There is nothing that's basically going on of that modest means. But says it might be unlikely he plays in the championship. And if Deebo doesn't play, there goes an important weapon. Yes, you may have Brandon Ayuk. Yes, you may have Christian McCaffrey. Yes, you might have George Kittle. But I watched Detroit in that game against Tampa. And Detroit never gave up. They've got heart. They've got grit. And all of their players are young enough that they've got a great pass rush. I love watching Aiden Hutchinson. I love watching this offensive line. And Jared Goff has been playing the best playoff in his career. So we can't really condemn him of the years when he was with the Rams, saying that it was all Sean McVay. No, Jared Goff is kind of pulling his own weight too. But the point is that San Francisco, you could paint this picture all on the wall. But the second you've got a crack in the wall or you got some sort of crack in the painting could easily tear away. I'm not saying San Francisco won't show up in the championship because they should. Kyle Shanahan has been in this position multiple times, and he can't seem to get himself back into the Super Bowl since he's been in Atlanta. And since he's even been in that last time against the Chiefs. So my big point is about San Francisco is don't give all of your hopes up if depending on what the scenario will be for the 49ers. Because again, I thought this offense was going to produce more, but it didn't. It clearly showed that Brock Purdy cannot carry this team on his back. Think about this. If you landed Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, into the Carolina Panthers system, he'd get destroyed because he barely has an offensive line. Sure, he's got great defensive players like Derek Brown and Brian Burns. And then he's also got a over 30-year-old wide receiver in Adam Thielen. That is his only star player. Run game's not great. Owner is a meddling owner. Nobody would want to play for that, let alone even coach it. But Brock Purdy would get destroyed because he needs superstar players. He needs a star head coach. He needs a smart GM like John Lynch. It's all the reasons why that some of this stuff works. But if you put Brock Purdy all by himself to basically carry this team, he's going to get demolished. But I have a feeling, and I'm going with Detroit in this game, but I have a feeling, honestly, that if push came to shove, that if Brock Purdy gets pressured, which I have a feeling that Detroit is coming in with serious attitude. Ben Johnson is making his case as to why he's a smart head coach. So all this stuff where they got a great offense in the first half, this will be interesting. But I'm telling you, the second you end up seeing the gestures, the facial expression, and of course, body language, that's where you know there is some big trouble ahead. I'm not saying Brock Purdy won't be good, but you could tell that he is limited. Part of that reason is because he's got a superstar cast. He's got guys that basically can make plays, and he has to throw it to them in order for them to get first downs and get points on the board. But he cannot carry this franchise. Absolutely not. It's one of those question marks for San Francisco that if they lose, you have seriously have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, is this the right move at quarterback? I know everybody's like they butchered on Trey Lance, but Trey Lance took a whole year off in college. If he didn't do that and he started playing in college, we might think differently about Trey Lance. We all know that what that was, but that is one bad pick. One. You don't just judge them because of one bad pick. There's so many different franchise quarterbacks out there that you could definitely put into this system. Hell, maybe even bring in a Kirk Cousins. Whatever the case may be. Kyle Shanahan's smart. But I can tell you, we all can see the limitations on Brock Purdy, and that is not something to shy away from. But I think, honestly, I don't think Brock Purdy's all that. I think, honestly, we've seen the truths about Brock Purdy. He's a good kid. He is accurate, and he is somebody that is smart, but he is not all hyper athletic like a Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes. He's not even close to that category. That's why you got to have smart head coaches. But to be honest, he's not that great when he's by himself, and it clearly shows. Whew, good stuff tonight. I really am glad that I'm back behind the mic. It's been far too long, and for a lot of people, our new home for the Snake Sports Talk Show, we are live in Colorado, and I appreciate every single one of you guys jumping back on and continuously giving your guys the support for the show. We got so much to break down. Coming up next, however, so I know a lot of people are kind of freaking out about what happened with Buffalo and with Josh Allen and where exactly do they go from here. There's a few things that could honestly work for the Buffalo Bills' favor, but there could be some serious changes, and I'll explain all of those coming up next up on the show. All right, folks, I have been talking about this now for quite some time, but the Snake Sports Talk Show, as you know, they are a proud partner of is one of the most trusted ticketing apps to go on. SeatGeek has you covered on all of your favorite seats and all of your favorite shows, whether it's going to your next sporting event, whether it's going to a live concert or seeing one of your favorite artists in person. SeatGeek has it all just for you. And they have it at the right affordable price so that you're not having to feel so freaked out and strained about overpricing tickets. Nope, they find you the best ones that you get with the best views at the best affordable price. That's why they're the most trusted ticketing app right now in the market. So go on to SeatGeek.com or download the app right now through Google Play and the App Store. And when you do, use promo code SNAKESPORTS, $20 off on your first purchase of your first ticket as a part of thank you for using the app and thank you for repping the show, and enjoy yourself. Think of it as a little treat from yours truly. Go online, SeatGeek.com, promo code SNAKESPORTS, $20 off of your first ticket purchase.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
Check out the Con Man live on the Sports Corner, coming to a screen near you, giving you the greatest stories from basketball legends you've never seen before. Sharing their glory, building the toughness, and how they show off their swag. But only one man knows all that, and that's the Con Man. Join Michael Conceição, the Con Man, at the Sports Corner, Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific on Sportsway Network.
If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to bluff. I flip a switch, never miss, man, I always stay up. Don't let them see you, bitch, always have a plan to stay tough. This life ahead of you ain't easy, it was built to be rough. But that's what makes a personality, is tragedy, bruh. So keep your head on your shoulders. Now we ain't out here moving rocks, we out here moving.
Bobby Montagna on the B-Town Breakdown, Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 5:30 Pacific on Sportsway Network.
Snake Sports Talk Show is sponsored by Muscle Tech, with hundreds of supplements and vitamins to choose from, all packed with 100% all-natural proven ingredients. You can be sure that Muscle Tech will give you the edge and the boost to train and look like your fit and healthy best, whatever your goals are. Try Muscle Tech today and use promo code SNAKESPORTS to save 30% off your purchases.
Show is sponsored by BetUS. Yes, that is right. We finally got the official betting sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. BetUS has hundreds of ways for you to bet and to have fun as well using the betting app. When you deposit today, you'll get 125% of your bonus. Isn't that a hell of a deal? 125% on your bonus and 30 risk-free bets when you go online to betus.com. That is betus.com, and let them know Jake the Snake Silva sent you. So I thought about this over the break, and the fact of the matter is, just this past weekend, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, they're on their way to their 6th appearance in the AFC Championship Game, and they're going to be playing against, you guessed it, Lamar Jackson. I don't know if this is going to be a great matchup for Baltimore all the way around. But the biggest thing is that Kansas City, they've overcome a lot of their problems. Patrick Mahomes is continuously looking great. And then there's Andy Reid with his just smart, collective play style. But the Buffalo Bills had an opportunity to honestly take advantage of Kansas City's woes. They don't have a big-name receiver. And yet MVS is literally moving right down the field, and they are burning an awful lot of Buffalo's secondary. Now, I know injuries suck. Injuries were the part of the reason. But here's the other thing, too, is that Buffalo, they're such a snake-bitten team, and they've been that way since they've been the team that's gone to 4 straight Super Bowls and have won none. That was a great team. Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, Andre Reed, Thurman Thomas. It was a great, great roster. They could not get over the top. Buffalo is a hell of an organization. They got great players. And we know Josh Allen is remarkable. But sometimes, too, it's really, really difficult to beat a team like Kansas City and the way that they basically have gone through their streak. I'm not saying Buffalo is terrible in any way. But the big thing is you have to be able to overcome a lot of those opposing teams' woes. You got to be the bigger team. And they were so heavily Josh Allen reliant. I thought they moved away from it by the time that they fired Ken Dorsey and brought in Joe Brady. I thought they were rid of that. Run game was great. They got more weapons. Dalton Kincaid is getting involved. Nope. It's the same Buffalo result. But here is the one big thing. Now, I don't know if Sean McDermott, honestly, is going to end up retaining his job. It looks to me that they are. Well, let's hypothetically say that if this was the end of it for Sean McDermott, there's only one coach that I would honestly think he kind of fits Buffalo. No, it ain't Jim Harbaugh, even though that is quite the hire. But I think, honestly, you should bring somebody like Mike Vrabel in. Yes, I know it would make people cringe thinking that, well, he's a defensive coach. But look at the numbers at Mike Vrabel as a head coach. His defenses are excellent. Jeffrey Simmons, Danico Autry. Hell, even at that time, he had Jarrell Casey, and they were a great defensive front. And that's with Derrick Henry as well on the run. He's had some great players. The only mishap, they traded away the wrong player, which was A.J. Brown, and that GM got fired. Then they ended up firing Mike Vrabel because they didn't end up making the playoffs. But what was Mike Vrabel to do? But the other thing is that he gets fired because of rumors that leaked out that he was basically interested in the New England job. So I can understand that. I can understand where that can tick off a lot of front offices. But in the end, Tennessee was basically just falling apart. They tried to make up for the A.J. Brown draft by basically drafting, or the trade by drafting Treylon Burks. That didn't work. He's not A.J. Brown. But I think if Mike Vrabel, if this was the opportunity, he'd be great at Buffalo. Big on culture, defenses play hard, and they play with a lot of spirit. Plus, Josh Allen, they're trustworthy in his abilities. They're just not reliant. Okay, there's the difference between being trustworthy and being reliant on somebody like Josh Allen with all of the abilities he has. You need a run game. You need solid receivers. By the way, Gabe Davis being hurt, yeah, it hurts. Because Stephon Diggs and my guy, Vocal Vike right here, Rap. Great to see you, man. But he knows this. Stephon Diggs is a deep ball receiver. He's only got one thing. He's not exactly a route runner. Yes, he's fast. Yes, he can get open, but he's mostly a deep ball threat. Outside of that, he's only one-track minded. I think, honestly, that if you're Buffalo, you got to give Josh Allen more weapons. And to be honest, If you would have done that, I would have probably have basically traded away Stephon Diggs, get some picks. Maybe you have to trade away a defensive player. Because honestly, I think the one guy that could definitely fit in the Bills system is Rome Odunze, that kid from Washington. He's a great route runner. He's somebody that's also really, really good on certain routes. And Josh Allen needs a reliable receiver. I know they drafted Dalton Kincaid. That's one of those things. But still, you've got to be able to trust. You've got to be able to build around your star quarterback. That's what Josh Allen wants. Because when you get comments of basically saying that, it sucks that they lost, yeah, you got to fix it. And to be honest, what was going through Sean McDermott's head when he ended up going on a 4th and 5 on a fake punt on their own territory? That's some Brandon Staley crap. It doesn't work. We've seen it. It doesn't work. You're over your skis when you do that. It's not worth it. But I think of Buffalo's going to be, they're going to be competitive for years. Whether it still is Sean McDermott, or maybe you go in and you hire like a Mike Vrabel, they'll still be competitive. Josh Allen is so damn talented. He's talented. And he needs help. He's a guy that obviously needs to reassure himself that the organization, that he's got trust in them. Because right now, like Gabe Davis being hurt, a couple of key players on defense were hurt, but at the same time, it just didn't look good. Kansas City started walking all over them. And then that 4th and 5 fake punt, what the hell were you thinking? You would have punted the ball away, at least control the clock. But at the same time, I know people were all like, well, Josh Allen had a clear throw over the middle. I know. He got bumped into, and it sucks. Quarterbacks go through this all the time. You can't ask a quarterback to basically be Batman and throw out the bat signal and ask him to save a franchise. That's too much pressure for any quarterback. You got to be able to give him some reassurance. You got to be able to give him something that he can honestly trust and rely on. And right now, Buffalo, they still are a competitive team, but he needs help. That's clearly what this whole thing is all about. This is bad. Everybody knows it's bad. But this is something that you have to fix. I like Sean McDermott. I do think he's a really, really good coach. But I think that if you really want to get over the top, in my opinion, I'd go and get somebody like Mike Vrabel, if in fact this is available. But if that's not the case, then you need to figure out how to help Josh Allen. All right, time for the news.
This is the Hot Press.
All right, so we got some news around in the league. So just earlier, and this basically broke out by Major League Baseball, that we have officially seen the Hall of Fame class of 2024. Hall of Fame class. It consists of third baseman Adrian Beltre, Minnesota Twins great catcher Joe Mauer, and then all-time first baseman Todd Helton. What a good class. And this is pretty good. I'm not saying that this was a great class, but this is a good class. And all three of them, I mean, Adrian Beltre, we knew was going to be a great player right out the gate by the time he went from the Dodgers, went from the Mariners to the Red Sox, and all the way to the Rangers. Spent his entire career there. The good stuff for Adrian Beltre. I'm happy for him. I think Todd Helton was an interesting one, but we have seen Todd Helton be a long-time Colorado Rocky, and I'm honestly excited about this. I live here in Colorado, and I do know of a field that's basically named by him. They're probably going to have Hall of Fames everywhere around, and I think it would be a great look. But Todd Helton, congrats to making it into the Hall of Fame. And then Joe Mauer, a longtime Minnesota Twin. He was great defensively for the Minnesota Twins. Also somebody that you could rely on the bat, basically drive in runs. Great player. Great player. I wouldn't particularly be mad about this, but This is interesting, but I think this is a real good class. I think it's pretty solid, but good for all three of these candidates. They absolutely deserved it. They put in all of their hardworking blood, sweat, and tears on the field. It shows to be enshrined this year in Cooperstown. So congratulations to all three of them. All right, so in the NBA, we had gotten some news earlier that basically resulted earlier where the Milwaukee Bucks ended up hiring Adrian Griffin and are right now in talks about possibly hiring somebody like Doc Rivers. So Adrian Griffin, this wasn't working. Players were pissed. And right now, like Griffin, he had a 30-13 record, but however, they dropped from 4th to 22nd in defensive efficiency from a year ago. And they got all-stars, but this is also, too, one of the key losses was Drew Holiday. That was the hardest loss that the Bucks could have. And since that trade, like with Damian Lillard, like they had not been the same defensive team since. And this is insanity. And despite being the second best record in the Eastern Conference, the Bucks dismissed Adrian Griffin for only 43 games into his head coaching career. They figured that they could find an upgrade from a young coach that could give him a chance to compete. And this is the thing. In the NBA, you've got to be able to compete for championships. That's a great roster. And Damian Lillard, he is most deserving of playing in an NBA final. Make no mistake of that. But you've got great players all the way around. Giannis, Chris Middleton, Dame, Brook Lopez. There's so many really good teams there. But this is interesting. But however, Doc Rivers, if he comes into the Milwaukee Bucks, I mean, I've got nothing against Doc Rivers, but I have seen Doc Rivers the latest since Boston. Okay. He ended up going on to the Clippers. Clippers didn't end up looking the same. The Clippers were basically they were inconsistent at that time. So he gets let go from there. Goes to the Sixers. And the Sixers, it was all this conversation. And then I will say respectfully, it was all tied into the whole Ben Simmons situation. That was bad. But in the end, Doc Rivers was trying to, at the very least, get more opportunities for his son to play, Austin Rivers, but it was not working. But I feel like in Milwaukee, this is really interesting. And here's an interesting thought. Okay, Rivers has been coaching 25 years, but he also was an All-American at Marquette University in Milwaukee. So a little bit of a homecoming back from there. But hopefully, I mean, the case of the matter is I like this roster, but if nothing, like honestly, if nothing is basically put together for this roster to basically go and make a run in the Eastern Conference, because again, Adrian Griffin, I don't think he's a bad guy, but players just didn't trust him. Despite being the second best record in the Eastern Conference. You've got to be able to have a guy that could earn the locker room. So hopefully they'll hopefully they'll fix this. But and then finally, the story here earlier, the Raiders ended up naming ex-Chargers executive and GM Tom Telesco as their new general manager of the Raiders, and this is a great hire. I've said this time and time again. I think that the Raiders really struck big on this one, because what did the Raiders need? They needed somebody who is quality in the player personnel, who could build the culture. And this is the thing, is that he's not a terrible GM at all in this market. And the Raiders' problem is that there are times where I felt like Mark Davis has gotten in the way because he's trying to resurrect some of this stuff that his father built, Al Davis. But you've got to have a trustworthy GM, and I thought that this was great. Part of the reason that Telesco was fired was not because Telesco did not do a great job. The reason he got fired is because, and I spoke about this with my buddy, I spoke about this with a really good friend of mine. He got fired because the Chargers are trying to change culture. They were trying to help get a coach, which honestly, it kind of seems like it's leaning towards Jim Harbaugh. They wanted to give him personal say in a lot of basically draft personnel. They wanted to make sure that he's got the right staff all around him. And by the way, I mean, the Chargers, they blocked every single interview for Kellen Moore. What does that tell you? They don't want to move on from him. They think he can really be a huge successor as an offensive coordinator. But here's the thing. Since Telesco was the Chargers general manager from 2013 all the way to 2023, he was responsible for drafting guys like Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, Justin Herbert, Kenneth Murray, and Thule. And he was aggressive in free agency. He was the reason that he traded for Khalil Mack. They got a couple draft picks, and they also restructured his contract to make it affordable. So it's not like he's a terrible coach. I feel like, honestly, that Tom Telesco could really get them into a better position. Now, I know a lot of people were thinking, like, as far as the head coaching hirings, because, I mean, Dean Spanos was trying to do all the best with basically trying all these coordinators, Mike McCoy, Anthony Lynn, and Brandon Staley, and they all failed. All three of them failed. But at least for the Raiders, they've got their culture head coach in Antonio Pierce. They've got a great pass rusher in Max Crosby, which you should be giving him another one. If you give him another really good edge rusher right next to him and Tyree Wilson, I think that this would be great. But we've even had talks and reports when it came to defensive tackles. And Christian Wilkins is on the market, and I trust him. I think he'd be a really good fit for the Raiders. But the big thing is, notice a lot of these names. Most of these names, some of them are basically offense, and there's also some really good defensive pieces. So I think Tom Telesco could really work this out. And I think with the Raiders situation, because they've only got $55 million in cap space, he could work with that. He could set up trade deals, because we know the only one that I think could kind of hold them back is the Hunter Renfrow contract. But at the same time, you could go get some players. You could get, and they could shape offensive line, because same thing that he's had. Rashawn Slater was a big hit in the draft. So you could get some in the draft or in free agency. And I do think Tom Telesco is smart enough to basically do that. I think this is a great hire. So Raider fans, they just need to relax, take a deep breath, and honestly, trust your staff. And I think this organization is in good hands. I think they could seriously make a big run. I mean, think about it. You may have potentially Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers. You've got Andy Reid with the Chiefs, and you've also got Sean Payton with the Broncos. And you've got Antonio Pierce, who is a player's coach. And you've got to have somebody that's going to win the locker room. And I think Tom Telesco is great at that. I think he's honestly great at that. He makes sense. He's the reason why that you want somebody that is great at player personnel, because for the last few seasons in the draft, it's been odd. Outside of Josh Jacobs and Max Crosby and like a bunch of other really good picks, they reached on Alex Leatherwood, which what the hell was that pick? Tyree Wilson, I'd say he's average. Let's see what year 2 does. I think you look pretty average. I mean, you could definitely get some really good draft picks from rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I think the Raiders, this was a good move for them. It's a really good, competent GM. But again, I think this is a gut punch for the Chargers all the way around. But I think this is great. This fuels up for the rivalry, and I'm all about it. All right. Well, that was the news.
This is the Hot Press.
All right, I want to talk about something that I think is really, really interesting. So the Detroit Lions, they're in the NFC Championship Game for the first time in years, since 1991. I mean, it was only 4 years before I was even thought of. But Detroit, for years and years and years, that I basically have watched them. Detroit has earned every single right to be in the NFC Championship. I mean, look at the draft picks that they've hit on. 6 total players. 6 of them. They've all hit the last 3 years. Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Monra St. Brown. There were so many really good players that Detroit was horrible for years. Once they got really good personnel in the building, and I think honestly, when it comes to Dan Campbell, he's a great culture-minded coach. He really is. He's all about the culture. He's played for this organization. He knows how upsetting it is to basically lose. But he is a big time, he sets the tone. Anytime I watch him in his press conferences and how well he kind of picks himself up, the team doesn't give up. The team plays to exactly his liking. They trust him. Think about it. Last year, when they knocked off the Green Bay Packers to the playoffs, Jamal Williams, who was on that roster before he ended up going to New Orleans, got emotional. This team is emotionally driven. They're sick of being laughing stocks. They've never been to the Super Bowl at all since the Super Bowl era merger. This is how special it is for Detroit. The whole city itself. And look, for years and years and years that I basically have been covering sports, Detroit has been known for 3 sports: baseball, basketball, and hockey. You guys remember the Russian dominance of the Detroit Red Wings for years under Steve Yzerman and several other really good players. I mean, and that was a crazy time. But they had some dominant players on the ice. Detroit looked unstoppable. Now you got Steve Yzerman as the GM there in that organization. Familiarity. Somebody who knows how this personnel and how this system works. Which is why that I'm like, Detroit's going to be in good hands. I like watching Dylan Larkin. I think they got a lot of really good players. Detroit at one point, the Pistons, I mean, good God, we've watched the Detroit Bad Boys for years in the 80s. Isaiah Thomas and, Lambeer. There were so many really good players, but they were all tough. They showed toughness. It gave Michael Jordan an awful lot of fits. But the Pistons were really good. And by the way, that one Pistons team with Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Chauncey Billups, those guys were badass. It's also what gave the Lakers fits in that finals. But Detroit played with attitude. By the way, the Detroit Tigers for years. I mean, I love watching Miguel Cabrera, but he is exactly who Detroit is. Detroit is all about make some noise and make a name for yourself. Mind you, Miguel Cabrera does have a World Series ring with Miami, with the Marlins. But he set the tone and culture the second he got traded to Detroit. And Detroit, they competed, but they never got over the top to go and get into the World Series. Now, they did that the last time in 2012, but then they got swept by the Giants. But Miguel Cabrera was a reason you never lost hope. Triple Crown winner, always fun to watch. Hopefully, I mean, good God, they've had a lot of great players from Al Kaline and so many of them. Detroit was known for basically being big on baseball. But the Lions in football is a totally different story. Emotionally driven, fans and celebrities. I mean, good God, Eminem is all big on this. It's big. Detroit is a hard town. I mean, between Detroit and Philadelphia, they both got some stuff in common. But this has been a team that's been a laughingstock for years. They've never won a playoff game since 91. They did that. They have never been to the NFC Championship from 91, and they did that. So it really, really, really does show you how passionate and how much this means for the city of Detroit and for the entire Detroit Lions franchise. I mean, this was a Fantastic year for the state of Michigan. Jim Harbaugh goes back to his alma mater. Took a couple years to basically get the players he wanted. But the second he got J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum, a lot of these players, they go and they win the Natty. Could you imagine if Detroit gave San Francisco fits on Sunday? And let's say they win and they go to the Super Bowl. That was all because the city lifted them up. Dan Campbell, emotionally driven, hardcore, love the grit, love the grind. He is a perfect culture. He is a perfect culture-setting coach. Understands how frustrating it was. I mean, he's been there. He was part of the 0-16 team. It was frustrating for years. You've got a competent GM that drafted 6 impactful players in the draft. Plus, you traded Matthew Stafford for a reason because, one, you were trying to do him a favor, but he gave you back 6 impactful players and Jared Goff. So altogether, this was all basically in the means of that trade. And I thought the trade was the right thing, and it was spectacular. It was sweet in the end. But I think for Detroit, I'm rooting for them. It's going to be a great NFC Championship game. But I do think, and again, I worry about San Francisco. Because this ain't exactly the same team. But, all in all, what can you do? I mean, this is great. This is more than just a Cinderella story. This is a team that wants it more. And to be honest, this is how you build Super Bowl teams. You build guys that are invested. So, I think this will be great, honestly. But later on, just for about a few minutes before we end up heading on out, I'm going to be giving my grades here for a lot of these games that we basically had witnessed over the past weekend and give you what to expect for championship weekend. That's all coming up next. All right, so folks, that is right. Our merchandise, just like this, Snake Sports Talk Show merchandise is online. You could get yourself some great merchandise when you go online to fourthwall.com/Snake Sports Talk Show. Lots of our gear is available now. And when you go online right now, as a start of the 2024 year, use promo code SNAKE24, Snake Year 24, and give yourself 24% off of all your purchases. We've got hats, we've got hoodies, we've got t-shirts, we've got beanies. We have so many selections of Snake Sports Talk Show apparel for you to rep for the show. And when you do actually purchase, send in your photos so we can shout you out on all of our social medias with hashtag Snake Sports Talk Show and hashtag Snake Gear for your chances to be featured in on all of our social medias. Go online, fourthwall.com. Link is in the description. Fourthwall.com/Snake Sports Talk Show. Like I said, Snake Year 24 for 24% off of all your purchases.
Nate Goyard.
Bitch, I'm a ball, bitch, I'm a ball. Don't get no ball, don't get no ball. What's in my cup? What's in my cup? Full of that punch, look at that punch. Bitch, I'm a ball, ballin' like Kobe. Ho, keep it moving, cause you do not know me. Bitch, I'm a ball, ballin' like Kobe. Ho, keep it moving, cause you do not know me. Bitch, I'm a ball, can't talk in Milwaukee. Tell my dog sick of me, ain't do no barking. Pass me some greens, you know I'ma spark it. Mama got ass, told her to arch it. Pull up at the spot, hop out and don't park it. Dino say, always keep one in the cartridge. With Joey up paper, so we going toxic. Came from the swamp to visit the tropics. Check out the scenery. Fell little mama to the backwoods right by the lake. And I had some weed on me. Had to retire my cup, but it still doubled up. So pour out some lean for me. We took an edible, feeling incredible. Fed away into the sheets. Hustle and flow as you need. Easy to
Key Williams and Dante Criswell star in 7200 Seconds podcast Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts to get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Robert Lyle hosts Between the Lines podcast, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Back with you here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with me here tonight. It is so good to be back here behind the mic, talking with all of you guys. What a fun night that we've had tonight. Well, we've got a lot of stuff that we basically got to unravel. And so for tonight, we are basically going to be going ahead and we are going to unveil our grades from a lot of the games we saw this past weekend. So, divisional round games, here we go. All right, so in the game between the Packers and the 49ers, I give the grading an A because that was by far really good, gutsy performances by both teams. However, San Francisco scares me a little bit. And so I think, to be honest, Green Bay, they have got a bright future. Jordan Love was on one. Forget about the interception and all the rest of that stuff, but Jordan Love is the reason that Green Bay right now, and especially for all these young players, this is the youngest team that we've had since 1970. Like, the youngest roster. That's unheard of, and Matt LaFleur does deserve a lot of credit for what Green Bay has done. Now, they may not have won the division, and that doesn't matter. But Green Bay, don't turn the cheek with this team. Because this team can be dangerous and it can be lethal. So I think, to be honest, like Green Bay next year, watch out for a lot of their young players because Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jordan Love, Rashawn Gary, lots of these young players. They are going to have an absolute tear next season, and I do think Green Bay is on the come up, but I am afraid of what's going to happen with San Francisco in the next round. All right, Tampa Bay and Detroit. I give this one at least B+, and the reason why is because, like, we knew that this game, Tampa Bay was going to come out with their defense, but let's be honest here. I mean, this was going to be close to at least an A-. But Detroit kind of slowed down again, but they are a team that is fit for the fight. They're great in the first half, but second halves are not exactly as great. But however, let's be honest about Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, I'd be running this puppy back. I'd be running it back. Baker Mayfield had a great year with Tampa Bay with a defensive coach, and this is post-Tom Brady. If they make the playoffs, this was a great year for them. So I would give this whole game a B+, close to an A-. But this was very entertaining. In Detroit, they're going up with some momentum. Baltimore and Houston, I'd give this grade at least a B, because the reason why is Houston, they were giving Baltimore fits. But in the end, the Ravens, they came back. The defense is great. They gave a lot of different pressures to the young roster of Houston. But by the way, don't hang your head, Texans fans. Your future is bright. CJ Stroud is unbelievable, and people are saying he might be next year's MVP. We may not know. But I thought this was great. I thought Houston put up a really, really good year, good numbers. But clearly, Baltimore is unstoppable. Lamar Jackson is just that damn good. So I give it a B, but Baltimore was just that good of a team, and I'm excited for them going into the AFC Championship. Finally, Kansas City and Buffalo. I give this game at least a B-, because the reason why that this game, it was towards the end. You're going for it on 4th and 5 on a fake punt, and you don't punt it away in your own territory. What are you doing? It was a terrible, terrible call. But despite that, they are so Josh Allen reliant. It's insane. I couldn't even believe it. But Buffalo had every chance to win that game. Kansas City again, for the 6th straight year. Holmes, Kelsey, Andy Reid, and Chris Jones, same narrative over and over and over again. But Buffalo just has to really, really work with what they've got. They got to get better at a bunch of places. And again, it'll be interesting. Now, the GM did say Stephon Diggs continues to be their number one. So it sounds to me they're not going to trade him, but you have got to help this roster. And this was just underachieving for the Buffalo Bills. But that's my draft. That was my playoff grade from there. We've gotten so many really good games. Like it's nothing to really kind of hang anybody's heads on. I thought it was great. I thought this was very much the game we really wanted to see. But Buffalo screwed themselves. I think Detroit was a great game. Then, between Baltimore, Houston, Baltimore was a great team. Houston can't get past them. And as far as the Green Bay and San Francisco, they should be cringing because Detroit's going to come in with some serious fire. And I'll have my prime predictions up on it on Friday this week. But it'll be interesting. Championship Sunday. Can't wait for it. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it here for all of us here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Appreciate all of you guys for joining up on the show. Like we said before. By the way, we are officially live on Instagram Live. How nice is that? Glad that we are able to get more and more innovative stuff in the world, and social media is just innovating and it's changing every single day. So, like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell button. Don't lose out on your opportunity to watch the show. Look up past segments. Keep yourself up to date for future shows. We're live on all platforms, even on iHeartRadio. The show is sponsored by SeatGeek. Don't lose out on your seat. Go to SeatGeek.com. Enter promo code SnakeSports to get $20 off of your purchase. And we are officially betting sponsor of BetUS. Go to betus.com, sign yourself up. You'll get 125% bonus when you sign up and 30 risk-free bets when you try it out. That's betus.com. See you guys tomorrow. We got another packed show up over here for you, but it is so good to be back live from Colorado. Yours truly, Jake the Snake Silva. Have a great one. We will see you tomorrow night.